Thank you for your patience. I'm so sorry. My usual camera was not working, so I had to go steal my boyfriend's from his booth. And then I like finally got it all set up, and then Zoom was like, "We're gonna update now." So I was like, "Oh my gosh." So we're here now. Thank you for waiting for me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for willing to do this.
Yeah, thank you. I'm always happy to do interviews.
So I could just jump around before getting to Fire Emblem.
Yeah, talk about ask whatever you so desire.
Well, the first thing I can ask is when you did get to LA, what was the job that got you into SAG?
The job that got me into SAG was Persona 5 Tactica, which is like my first big job that I ever really booked, which is like I'm a huge Persona fan, have been forever. So I remember auditioning for it and like I had an inkling that it was a Persona, but like usually when we audition for stuff, it's like so code named where it's like and they make it kind of confusing to guess what it is. But I was like, I think this is Persona, and it was from the studio that usually does Persona. So I
Yeah.
was like, I think it is. And then the day I booked it, my director Val, who is mom, love her so much. She's directed like all the Persona games since like two, three, I think. Like so, yeah, she's done five, three Reload, three, four, all of them. Um, and she called me and I was in another session and I saw that she called me and I was like, oh my gosh, she's calling me. And I was like, what if this is about the thing I auditioned for? Um, so I just had to wait until my session was over and it was a 4 hour session. And then finally I got out and was able to call her back and she was like, I have great news for you. So she told me, that I booked it. And then she was like, by the way, like we have to Taft-Hartley you, which is essentially what they do. And you're non-union and then they're like you want to work on a union game and I was like oh my gosh I'm a big voice actor now because I'm getting Taft-Hartley'd and so yeah I think that was what got me eligible and then because it was like a multi-session like we did some sessions right after I booked it and then we did other that this was like almost exactly 2 years, I want to say 2 years ago now, around August. And then I came back in like January, February, March to do most of the storylines for the game. So because I was coming back and it was, I think, under a new contract, they were like, you'll have to become a must join to do it. So are you prepared to join the union? And I was like, absolutely anything for Persona. And I was already planning to join it too. So I joined it and the rest is history.
Well, I wasn't sure about the timeline, but was in terms of video games, was Smite one of the first things you did?
Was Smite one of the first things I did? I think it was pretty early on. I was definitely in LA at that point because I did Smite. I had been auditioning for Smite forever. I think most people kind of had that experience where sometimes it switches studios around quite a bit. So we were all, and it was in Texas. A lot of us had been auditioning for it, and then it moved to LA, and it was actually it's no longer there, but it was actually at the same studio that does Honkai Star Rail now. So it was the director, one of the directors of Honkai Star Rail was doing Smite at the time. So I went in and did that. I think that was pretty early on in my in my living in LA, but I did a lot of video games remote when I was living at home. I was in Massachusetts working remotely and then when I started booking more stuff, I was like, I think I'm gonna finally do it and move to LA. So yeah, it was pretty early on that I booked Smite, but not one of the first ones I did. I'm trying to remember like what I did a lot of indie games back in the day, so there were quite a few indie games that I had done. Um, what was my first video game though? Oh my gosh. I feel like I should like open up my IMDb and look. It was probably Smite was probably up there with like early on. I don't even remember what I do these days. Let's see, open the old IMDb. Um, I think I think Warframe was one of the early ones I did. Um, I was doing Genshin NPCs pretty early on. Yu-Gi-Oh, the mobile game, I was doing that super early on.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I think those. But yeah, a lot of indie video games that I really can't remember off the top of my head that I don't think ever got completed yet.
What about the timeline of your first character part in anime?
In anime, back when I was living in Massachusetts, that was back when Crunchyroll was still Funimation and they were allowing remote talent. So one of my, well, actually, I guess it wasn't technically anime, but it was like dubbing where Jason Lord, who now directs a lot at Crunchyroll, was doing stuff with his own studio and they were dubbing a couple of these like short Chinese animated films. So I did a couple of those and it was wonderful working with them and they're out there and they were so good. Like we have such a good cast on all of them. And then he moved to Crunchyroll to direct and they were still using remote people. So he brought me in to do a ton of Walla. So, and I was also working with Studio Nano a lot, which is run by Michelle Rojas. And yeah, we were doing, what was I doing? I was doing Walla on, oh my gosh, there was a volleyball anime. Oh man. Oh, I had a character on Love Live Superstar through Studio Nano. Sorry,
Yep.
my cat's knocking stuff down. Um, a Kebi Sailor uniform, Girls Frontline, that was Walla, or smaller roles at Crunchyroll Funimation. And then yeah, once I got to LA, I started booking a bit bigger roles. So I booked Pokemon as one of the leads in Pokemon Paldean Winds, which is so much fun to do. I miss doing that every day. Um, I worked on Ashura, which was at Ayuno, which was really fun. I'm my one of my good friends is the director, so it was really cool to I'd been wanting to work with him for so long because, even though your friends are the directors, they are not usually the decider of who gets to be cast in
Yeah.
it. So I was like, someday I'll get to work with you. We'll make it happen someday. And like this is finally the one. And it was so much fun getting to work with him. His name's Mike Schneider. So he's a really great director. What else did I work on? I got to do what's it called? Uh Konosuba at Bang
Yep.
Zoom, which is really fun. Yeah, so just auditioning for a lot, but back and forth, there was a pretty slow period of anime in LA because Crunchyroll was like, we're just gonna use people in Texas and not use remote people. So there was a big dry spell, but finally things are, happening back over here. So auditioning for a lot and hopefully we'll get some more.
hmm Well, I was gonna bring it up later on, but since you already mentioned Ishura, I think that's probably my single favorite role of yours
Oh,
is
really?
Ishura.
Oh, I'm so glad. That makes me so happy to hear because I feel like not a ton of people have seen that show, but I had so much fun doing that and Nihilo was just and like so many cool people were on that show. Like my friend Kevin was one of the mains in that show too and like when I walked into the studio the day that we were doing like the fight scene um my director was like, you'll never guess who you're fighting and who's gonna, well, I'm not gonna say spoilers for anyone watching that, but who
Yeah.
you're fighting. And he had already come in and recorded. So when you do English dubbing, a lot of the time they'll have whoever had come in and recorded, they'll have the English track playing. So you can work off of them. Sometimes you get unlucky and you're the first one in, so you're just like, playing, voicing with
Yeah.
yourself. But he had already come in, so I got to like record off of his voice, and he was like, "You'll never guess who it is. It's Yuri Lowenthal." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, no way!" So that was like one of the coolest things ever. Like getting to hear him and getting to like be in a scene with him for like 2 episodes was crazy. Like, oh my gosh, I was like career made. So.
Well, do you think that Nihilo was the darkest headspace you've had to go for a character so far, or has there been something else?
Oh, I feel like Nihilo is definitely up there. There was I when I did Warframe, that was a pretty dark headspace I had to go in because that was like kind of a horror thing. And it was basically about my character like lost her husband and she was basically stuck in this like she was like basically a digital version of herself and unable to pass on and like getting memories from her past. And that one was and while she's like trying to get the player to figure things out, help her figure things out, she's getting hunted by these like very scary angels. So like that was definitely a crazy session. And like I think I remember that was pretty early on in my career too. I like left the session and I like had to call my mom after because I was like, I need to go like lay down and like wrap myself in a blanket and feel better. So and then I think I wouldn't say a dark headspace, but when I did Misha for Honkai Star Rail, just like the sadness of no spoilers, but the like bittersweet and sadness of some of the scenes I did. I walked out of my final session for Misha and like cried a little bit in my car, but not bad tears, just like wow, that just happened. So
Well, in terms of larger characters that you played, like who do you think that you personally relate the most to then?
oh, hmm. I think if people have played it, The Legend of Heroes Trails Through sorry, I Trails Through Daybreak. It had a different name when I recorded it, so I always accidentally say the other name, but Trails Through Daybreak. Um I play a character named Mariel Amy, and she's like I walked into my first session and my director was actually the same one was Val who directed me on Persona and directs the Personas, but the localizer was my really good friend Leona, who has worked on the Trail series forever. And she like came up to me and we were just talking about the characters I was going to do that day. And she was like, "So your character Marielle, she's like a walking disaster, girl failure." And I was like, "That's so me." And she really is. And she's also a journalist, which is what I went to school for, even though I don't do any kind of journalism anymore. But she's
Okay.
just like kind of coasting by the like skin of her teeth in terms of like she gets really lucky and gets out of these sticky situations, which I feel I relate to, and it's just kind of like all over the place and like a little crazy, but like in a fun way, and I feel like I relate to that. And she's just silly, and I feel like I can be a very silly person.
Could you easily connect to Misha too then?
Yeah, I definitely connect to Misha. Honestly, like all my characters I really connect to, and like even the ones that are just like nowhere near who I'm like I voice a lot of like creepy, kind of scary, freaky girls. Um uh I guess blanking on the name. I am so bad at remembering all the names of my characters. Like Virtuosa from Arknights, she's a little creepy, scary, and then my character from uh what's it called? Wow. Another game that's also creepy, scary. I'm like, I can still relate to them in a way that's like I think they're always just very passionate about their arts, and that could like drive them to more unusual places. And I think like as an artist, and I'm sure many actors can relate and many artists can relate, sometimes your art drives you to interesting places and doing interesting things. Nothing bad, obviously. I'm not like, murdering, mass murdering or anything. I swear, I promise. But yeah, so it's like your dedication to your art, I can definitely relate to. And all my characters, I always find something, I think that's important as an actor is finding something you can really relate to in your characters. And that way it makes your acting so much more true and so much more real and grounded to the audience. So yeah, finding that connection is always important.
Do you have a particular process too when you do boy voices?
Oh, when I do boy voices, I just like this is so silly. I just imagine they're like even if they're like, not from a modern contemporary time like Misha or like, I don't know, I've done so many different boy voices, auditioning wise and in my actual work that I booked. Like I just imagine them being boys and like boys in 2024 where it's like they play Roblox and they love going outside and like doing random things or like I guess maybe I'm thinking of like boys from my generation like they would play Tech Decks and they would play Ocarina of Time and Halo in their basement, and like I always think of like my brother too because he was like growing up he was my younger brother and like he played so many video games and he was just like big nerdy kid and I always like just think of my brother when I'm doing young boys. And also when I did Misha too, my director, because I was in my audition and also in my kind of beginning of working on him, I was giving him a very like cutesy vibe where he still sounded boyish, but he was more like, that anime cutesy boyish. And my director Kal-El kind of directed me in a way that was more like, boys don't he made me think about boys don't go, especially at that age, they don't want to show too much emotion. They want to come off as like, a bit older, a bit more mature, a bit tougher than they are. So not allowing myself to get too big about things and still, still being a kid at the end of the day. And like, yeah, so I always think of that too when I do boys.
Did you have a default line to get into Misha's headspace every time too?
Oh my gosh. Did I? I'm trying to think. This was so long ago now. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. This was like November of last year. What did what I think this is such a meme, but I after 2.0 of Honkai came out and they like Misha was out and there, I started like making memes and stuff and I like made a made a like song cover of like the Chug Jug with You song, the like Fortnite song as Misha. And then I would just like walk into my sessions and like start singing it as Misha and like we'd all laugh. And so I guess that is like my way of getting into Misha post making that meme where it'd be like, or this is silly too. I would walk in and do the what's that one? There's like that one meme where it's like the little German boy and he's like, I'm drinking cola and playing Fortnite. Yippee! So I would always do that too. So it was like, I'm so unserious in the booth. So
Yeah. Well, and also with Honkai and Genshin, did you audition for multiple like significant characters?
oh my gosh, yeah. For Genshin, I think the first time I auditioned for Genshin, I did the big batch of like the big first batch of Fontaine characters. So I auditioned for Farina, I auditioned for Navia, I auditioned for who else was in that batch? The like small Melusine girl, I forget her name.
Sigewinne.
Yeah, Caesarine, I auditioned for her. I auditioned for Clarence. Was there anyone else in that batch? I don't think so. I think that might have been it. But I remember like working. This was my very first Genshin audition, so I was like, I'm gonna go so hard. I'm gonna book one. I remember going like feeling very good about my Farina, but I think a lot of actors can relate to this. Is like once the product comes out and you hear who got it, you're like, okay, yeah, well, yeah, of course, of course. Like I'm glad they got it and they made it perfect in their own way, and like I'm a firm believer in that, like the right character always comes along for you because right after the Fontaine batch is when I got it was like a dual audition for Skirk and she's the like soldiery girl. Uh,
Chevreuse.
yeah, Chevreuse. It was those two in one batch. And I remember seeing Skirk and I was like, that seems like a character I would book. And I like, so I did it. And sometimes you just know when you're auditioning, you're like, I think I think I'm gonna book this one. I just have a feeling. And I did. So I was like, let's go. So yeah, I auditioned for all of those. And I continued to audition. I did not audition for the Natlan batch because I'm not right for those characters. But I have auditioned for other things since then, or before that, since Skirk. And I kind of like do the auditions. Like, I don't think Genshin double casts like Honkai does. So I was like, I'm just doing these kind of for fun, for practice, and just show them what I can do and not expecting to book them. And then Honkai, I've been auditioning for Honkai for way longer than Genshin. I auditioned for Black Swan. I auditioned for Ho Ho. I auditioned for or actually no, did I? Yes, I did do the Ho Ho. That was like the one of the very first ones I did. That was a long time ago. Um the character like that's one of the two sisters and she has like gray hair. Oh my gosh. I have her on my team too. What's her name? I think Susie Young voices her.
Oh, Hanya.
Um, yeah, Hanya. I auditioned for Hanya. I think there were other characters in that batch that I passed on because they were looking for a specific spec too. And then I auditioned for pretty much all the female roles in Penacony. So I auditioned for um Sparkle, who had a different name when we were auditioning. I auditioned for Misha. I remember doing Misha and being like, that's not maybe I don't know. I think I'd be better as one of the girls. Oh yeah, Firefly was in that batch. I auditioned for Firefly. And I remember like I was thinking like, oh yeah, I have guy friends who would be perfect for Misha. I hope they book Misha. And then like I got callbacks for Misha and Sparkle. And then at the time I got the callbacks, I was so sick. I had like the worst cold. And my director emailed me, was like, can you get these done really fast? So I did the callbacks for those two and then um, ended up booking Misha. And then I think since then I had auditioned for Robin, Acheron, um, obviously Pearl. And all it was basically anyone that's come out, I've probably auditioned for them. And then things that haven't come out yet, I have also auditioned for. But yeah, I'm like, there's no way they're gonna give me a third character in this game. So I think that's at the same point of Genshin where it's like, I'm just doing this for fun. And that's essentially what I was doing with the batch that Pearl was in, where I was like, oh, I knew right away it was the stone. They didn't say it was the stone hearts, but I was like, I know this is the stone hearts. And that would be so cool to be a stone heart. So I was like, I'm not gonna book these, but I'm just gonna do them anyway. So I did Obsidian and Pearl, and I think in that same batch was like Fei Xiao and Ling Sha, Yun Li. I was like, let's just do them and see what happens. I'm not gonna book it, it's fine. And then they gave me an avail check, and I was like, "Oh, is Misha coming back? That's so weird. Is Misha back?" Or I asked my agent, I was like, "Is it Misha? Is it NPCs?" They're like, "Oh no, it's for the character you auditioned for, Pearl." And I was like, "What?" Yeah, so that was cool. That was cool.
Well, it is cool because I was honestly surprised that you hadn't wound up in Fire Emblem yet too.
I know. I wanted to so bad. I hadn't auditioned for it much. I'd only auditioned like once before the one that I finally got. Yeah, I'm such a huge Fire Emblem fan. Like Fire Emblem Awakening, and I guess like the Ike games, I was like I didn't play them until later, but I was like very aware of them and watched Let's Plays of them. But Fire Emblem Awakening was like the first video game where I was like, oh my gosh, I guess it's not a JRPG, but I was like, I love JRPGs. I love these characters. And like, I started, keeping track of voice actors after that because I was like, wow, I love all these characters. I'm so in love with this character, Crom. Who voices him? And I would like go look at him and be like, Matthew Mercer. Oh my gosh, what else has he done? Oh my gosh, he's in everything. Oh my gosh. And like, I would just start like, and that I think was the beginning of like me just wanting to be a voice actor. And that was so long. I was like 15 back then, and would not start voice acting until I was at least 22. But at the time, I was like, oh, that's just something I want to do so bad because I love Fire Emblem, and like every time a Fire Emblem has come out, I've been like midnight I buy those games. I'm like, oh, I'm so ready to play. And I'm just like Three Houses is one of my favorite games of all time. I'm the biggest Dimitri fan ever. Funny story about that. I've worked with Chris Hackney, who voices Dimitri. Not, I guess it was like a couple months ago. He was directing something, and my friend had bought me this like poster that was like Dimitri's heroes, like I don't know, call out, and it was like instead of kill every last one of them, she put book every last one of them, and I thought it was funny, so I put it on my booth wall. And then I was working with Chris, and he was like, I heard that you had a poster of Dimitri on your booth that says book every last one of them. I was like, who told you, Chris? So yeah, Dimitri fangirl since day one. Yeah, I love Fire Emblem. So I was really, really wanting to get into Heroes for the longest time. And then finally one day I had auditioned for it once, but didn't hear anything. That was like years ago. And then one day, earlier this year, I got a direct audition for it, and it was two girls, and then one I booked. I'm not sure if the other one's come out yet. I think maybe she has, but I booked her. I did that audition. I was like, I know this is Fire Emblem. I know I want it so bad, please. And I kind of forgot about it because that's just what you have to do. And then I remember I got the email that was like, hey, they want you. And I was so excited to find out who it was. And I remember going to the session and them showing me the art. And I thought it was going to be like, I know there's a lot of like previous Fire Emblem characters that are in Heroes, and I thought it was going to be just like one of those, but then I saw that it was like an original character, and I was so excited. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's an original character too. So she was really fun to voice.
Was that Patrick directing you or Caitlin or
It was Patrick, yeah. And I was my first time getting directed by Patrick, and I've been like such a big fan of Patrick for so long. So I was so excited when I went in there and my engineer like let me into the studio and he was like, yeah, Patrick will be directing you today. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's Patrick. Yeah, so that was really, really cool to get directed by him. He's lovely. He's such a good director.
it sounds like it's pretty close to your natural voice too.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know. I do a lot of like the deeper characters, so I wasn't expecting to get her because she was on the higher end, but I don't know. I just had a good feeling about her, and then when I went in and did her, and I was like, oh yeah, I get to play a more gentler, like more a bit more breathy, sweet character who's just like she's super cute. So I was very excited to get to voice her.
Did you connect to much with Hathorn too?
Yeah, I think like I have that feeling that abandonment that she kind of has about because she and like missing her family and um how everyone, she's the one that heals and even though they're all the healing hands, but she's the one that I don't know, especially because I live across the country from my whole family and we're all on good terms where there's no bad blood between any of us, but I miss them a lot and sometimes it feels like I'm going through a lot of things by myself. I'm so glad I have a wonderful partner who has been by my side and wonderful friends here, but sometimes it can be hard when like the people you've been with your entire life are living so far away. Like I've had some mental health issues the past year that I've luckily been really working on and things are going a lot better, but going through those times and having my family be 6 hour plane ride or like just a whole country away is has been hard to, and can be kind of lonely sometimes. So I definitely resonated with that for her.
Were there any single favorite lines that you have for her?
I like the line where she talks about her father. I forget specifically which line, like how it specifically how it goes, but she how her father was once um kind and now not as much. And I just thought that was like yeah, all of her lines are very sweet and gentle. And then that one was like the one where I was like, oh, this is like sad and gives a lot of depth to her and like how she feels. And that was also an audition line as well. So I felt like that one was really, and the rest of her lines are really fun, but I always like finding a line that's a bit more deeper than the other ones that you've done, where she's more on the, baseline, normal, calm end.
What did you think when you saw her design for the first time?
Oh, I loved her. I was like, oh, I love a blue hair girl. And like, the artist who I'm blanking on the name of who has done all the Awakening art and like the Fates art and I was like, "Oh, it's so cool. Like I finally voice a character that he drew." And I was so excited about that. I know some people when they like when her art eventually came out and people were like, "Why is she posed like that?" I didn't see that pose and it was only like a up from there. So I was like, "Oh, but I still think she looks great. Like, you know what? Sometimes girls have a weird spine, and that's fine. That's fine. But no, I love her hair and I love her whole, I don't know. She's just so cute. I love her. And I'm just such a fan of the artist that I was like, oh.
Was there any reference at all to the Japanese or no?
Yeah, we heard ref for the Japanese. I think did how much did we do it by line or did we I think we might have used it for timing. So I would hear it and then do my own line, but yeah, I think so. I think, yeah, we definitely heard the J.
Is there something that you would hope to see for her character as well?
I hope she gets to be reunited with her family. I haven't played the story yet, so no spoilers.
Okay.
I need to play. So maybe she has been at this point. I hope she gets to be happy with her family again. And I don't know, I love it in the cinematic that they did where she's like the like player character wakes up and she's like, hi, and like I don't know, it'd be cute. I always think it's cute when like like nurse-like characters get to like bandage someone up. So I hope she gets to do that. I think it would be cute.
Well, it does sound like um you actively play Heroes too.
I used to when it first came out, I was like, I'm so bad about gacha games because like all these gacha games will launch and I'll play them and then I'll get like I just like I can't go to a casino. I can't do any of this because like I have an addictive personality. So I'll start like wailing for these characters and I'll be like, I can't do this. I gotta quit the game. I remember like Genshin when it first came out. I played so much of it. And I was like, I spent like $200 to get Diluc, and I was like, oh, I can never do this again. So I quit the game. I've been trying to play more since I've been in the game, but I was like, I have to be so careful. And then like Honkai Star Rail, I was like wailing just to get a 4-star who I voiced. I was like, oh man, I shouldn't be spending all this money. But Heroes, yeah, it was the same tune. I was like wailing for these characters and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to stop. So I took a break from it, but I want to start playing it again now that I'm in it. I'm maybe that's kind of vain where it's like I only play games that I'm in. Not true. I play a lot of video games, but I maybe I can stop myself from spending too much money and play the game so I can actually experience the story because I know the story isn't voiced, so I've only experienced like her lines in gameplay. So
Mhm. Who are your favorites besides Dimitri in the franchise?
oh my gosh, big question. I love Crom, Crom girly for life. Me and my friend were literally just having this conversation where we were talking about our favorites. He's in oh my gosh, I'm so bad at remembering names. He's in Shadows of Valentia and his name starts with B and he's like kind of
Oh, Bowie.
I do love Bowie. There's another one. What's his name? He's like he's not evil. He's kind of evil. I don't know. Anyway, hot guys. Who else? I love I was such a my like I said, my friend and I were I think we talked about this for like 2 straight hours the other night. Um because we were like Crom, I was like, I want to romance Crom. I was like, I hate Sumia. I hate her. She needs to get away from my romance with Crom. Get away from my man. So I don't like Sumia. Yeah, I do now. She's lovely. I love her. At the time, I was like, screw her. Um, I love Cordelia. I love all the Pegasus Knights. I love I just love Robin too. Who else? Oh my gosh. I love he's the candy guy, the candy thief guy.
Oh, Gaius.
Yeah, I love him. I love him. Who do I like from Fates? Who from Fates? Xander, right? The prince guy, the oldest prince, loved Xander. I just love princes, you know. Like you can definitely tell my type. Dimitri, Xander, Crom, Three Houses. Oh, I love all the Three Houses characters. Like I just love that game and all those characters are just I've spent so many hours in that game, so I'm just like, oh, these are all my friends. I love these. I love these characters. So I love Claude. I think if Dimitri's number one, Claude is definitely number two for me.
Did you play much of Engage?
I honestly, I still need to play Engage. I bought it, like I own it, and it is in my Switch currently, and I played maybe like 20 minutes of it, but I think that was around a time when things were just getting busy with work. It's like I'll start playing these games or games that I really want to play will come out, and then sometimes work just gets crazy where I'm just like not having a moment to breathe, which I love because I love like working and doing what I love, but sometimes it makes it so I just have a huge backlog of games. So I do need to play more Engage. Did you like Engage? Would you recommend it?
Yeah, I mean, I have a Lear tattoo, so
Hey, that's awesome.
I also have a. It's hard to see this one, but Olivia. I don't know if
I was gonna say I love Olivia. So cute.
then Seliph from the game that I mean, Genealogy wasn't released here, but he's only in Heroes. But yeah,
Yes. Oh, and I love Ike. I know that's like I love Ike. We like Ike. And Marth because you know he's and Roy. Roy's our boy. Um, I like a frame too. Oh yeah, what other games are there? There's so many Fire Emblems. I love all the prints. I loved all the prince units. Give them to me. Elliewood. I love Elliewood. Basically all the main character, the main guys.
Yeah. Well, I know one of the other main games that I hadn't brought up yet is Nikke. If you do
Oh
you
yeah, Nikkei, yep.
do you play that too, or did you?
I downloaded it and like it literally was the same situation with Engage where I was like, because I had booked the game before it came out. So I was like aware of it before it was ever released. So I was like, oh awesome, Nikkei is out today. I'm gonna download it, I'm gonna play it, I'm gonna try and get Isabel. Found out Isabel was like a really hard unit to get. Like she was like an SSR unit. I was like, oh well that's we'll try once, didn't get her, and tried again, didn't get her. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll play more because the story seems kind of cool, and then just got busy and didn't get a chance. In a perfect world, I'd have way more time for gacha games, but I'm so bad at keeping up with them. I play like I say that, but then I play like a million hours of Final Fantasy 14, like it's my job. So
Well, is there anything that you want to say to the Fire Emblem fandom?
Well, thank you for having me and thank you for being a fan if you are a fan. I'm one of you. I'm one of you. I'm also a huge Fire Emblem nerd, so it is so cool to like be in it now and be part of it like I've been playing it for a bajillion years at this point. Ever since they were in Smash, and I was like, who are these pretty boys? Who are these boys? And then I was like, oh, these are games that I can play. So I've been a fan forever, and it's so cool that, just I've always been a video game nerd, so it's so cool to be on the other side of it where you're part of the product and like, get to see everyone be excited about it. And that means the world to me. So thank you for being excited about the things that I get to do and for being as excited about Fire Emblem as I am. So thank you.
I suppose the most recent, like, safest thing you could talk about is being in the Trails game.
Yeah, yeah. Trails is so much fun. I've been wanting to be in that series for a while, so it was so cool to get to be part of it. And also I didn't know that like once you're in one game, your character kind of shows up for more. So it was like, work on work, So it was awesome. And excited to see. I know there's like a third game coming out in the like arc of the Van arc. So excited to see who shows up in that one and if I'll be back for that one. If they're I have no idea if they're doing a localized version of it. They don't tell us anything. So we'll find out as you guys find out. But hopefully all my girlies will be back in the third one when it comes out. And that was just super fun to work on both games. They've announced the second one at this point, so I can talk about it, but it was cool because the people I get to work with on those games are just like some of my favorite people in the whole world. So I always love getting to do those games. And when the first Trails Through Daybreak came out, like finding out that everyone was in so many of my friends were in it. We're like, oh my gosh, we're all in this game together. And then, my boyfriend also got to be in it, and we aren't in a lot of games together all that much. So it was so cool getting to be in a game together. And sometimes our characters interact, and I'm like, oh hey, look, our characters are interacting. So that was really cool. And like my friend Justice, who's also in the game. It's so cool finding out he was in the game and like all these other people. I'm like, everybody's here. So that's been super fun to get to work on.
Is there anything else that's upcoming or part of you can safely talk about, or
Ooh, trying to think. Trying to I don't want to say anything I shouldn't say. What's upcoming? Hmm. Hmm. What have I worked on? I don't even know if I can say anything. That sucks because it's like I'm sitting on so much. I like it's so fun when you get to work on like you spend hours upon hours, sessions upon sessions working on these games, and then you have to wait like a year or two to even have them see the light of day and talk about them. Like there is one that I got to work on that I'm so excited to announce, and I know my a lot of people I know are fans of. So I have like I've been sitting like people have because they've announced the game and people have been like, I'm so excited for this game to come out. And I'm over there in the corner, like, I've been working on that game all year. So I'm very excited to see that come out. But yeah, there's just so much stuff that we all just sit on forever. And then it's like, but luckily there's always more stuff that we're working on. So it's just it's cool when things finally come out. But yeah, I've been very busy this year. So very excited to see when these things come out and very excited to get to talk about them. And hopefully, the studios give us a good deal, the union a good deal, so we can all talk about them when they come out. But yeah, support SAG.
Well, my final question is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, oh my gosh, that's a hard one. I guess like as someone that has always really struggled with their mental health and like, you know, been in and out of therapy, medicated, a lot of in my darkest times, video games and sometimes anime, just like, you know, everything has always like people's voices have meant a lot to me. And like there are characters who have resonated with me so deeply that like they're and the voice actors are such a big part of that that it just I want to be that for some people who like, you know, don't have to feel so alone when they play their favorite game. They get to hear my voice and hear me talking to them and going through these trials as a character. So hopefully that will be my legacy is I'll my voice will resonate with a lot of people in the characters I play and like that will make them feel a little less lonely and maybe help them feel better and happier. Because I know there's so many voice actors who I get to meet every single day and I'm friends with who were literally that for me when I was a teenager and just like alone in my house playing, you know, video games and not being happy with life, but being like, at least I have these things and these make me happy. So hopefully that's my legacy.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, hope you have a good rest of your day then.
You too. Bye.